Tennessee at Kentucky. Tennessee favored by 3.5. Both teams looking to get the bad taste of a loss out of their mouth. 7 Eastern, ESPN, Kroger Field. Kroger Field, in my opinion, I've never been, from what I've heard, from what I can see on the television screen, one of the most underrated environments in all of college football. This is going to be a lot of fun. Expect that place to be rocking. Expect that place to be a little bit daunting, I think, for this Tennessee offense in the early going. They will try and make their presence felt. I'm sure Mark Stoops will make a call to action. He talked about it when they had a noon game against Florida, I believe. It was like, hey, we know our fans can get up and get after it a little bit before noon. You give them a whole runway now to 7 Eastern, look out. For Tennessee, they are trying to restabilize after that Alabama loss. And the frustrating thing, I think, if you're a Tennessee fan, is you played well enough in the early going, it felt like, to have that be the plan the rest of the way. We'll talk about what went wrong here in just a minute, and we think what's going to happen for Tennessee in this football game. But, like, you've seen it, is what I want to say. You've seen the engine revved. You've seen Joe Milton be great throwing the ball downfield. You've seen Squirrel White separate and be a playmaker for you. You've seen it. You saw it in that game. You also saw it against Texas A&M, the way they ran the football. Is that there for Tennessee in this game? We'll talk about it, and we'll see. But this is a game where you kind of try and steady yourself, kind of get your bearings, and keep on pressing forward to those big games you have in November. Now, I think this team for Tennessee has an edge to them. And I think baked into that edge that we've talked about a lot this season, that edge that they have, I think, contains some pride within being a Tennessee Volunteer. I think there's some toughness within them. Both those things combine to make for a really great response if you're Tennessee. So I'm excited to see what they do in this spot on the road. Now, for Kentucky, lost the last 2. Backed into a corner. There is nothing more dangerous than a man backed into a corner because he will do anything and everything to get out of it. I would guess there is a massive chip on the shoulder of this football team, and I would also expect them to go back to their traits. And I think their traits when it comes to what Kentucky is as a football team, physical, hit you in the mouth, we're going to run the football at you, and I think that's the first thing we got to watch at. Or the first thing we have to watch, rather, within this game is the chess game for Kentucky to get downhill running the football. Notice, I did not say Kentucky running the football downhill. The chess game within that, because for Tennessee, they have a really stout run defense. Right now, allowing 3.1 yards a carry. Kentucky's right around 5.9 yards a carry, rather, as a team. Now, Kentucky, from a run-pass ratio, right around 50-50. But what I just said with that yards per carry, and what we've seen from Kentucky, looking at that Florida game, they're at their best when Ray Davis is getting north and south. Are they able to do that? Because I don't think it's a thing where you just line it up, go power right, power left, like you did against Florida if you're Kentucky. I think this Tennessee defense will bring a little bit more to it. So, with this conversation then around running the football for Kentucky, can you find a way to lighten the box? The way you would do that, I think quick game, 3-step drop, or catch, rock, throw out to whichever receiver you want to talk about. Tavian Robinson and Berrien Brown, you would hope, are both back and healthy for this game. Berrien Brown especially, we'll talk about here in a second. The perimeter pass game, get the ball to these guys in space, let them work a little bit, let them get upfield, try and attack the edges of that Tennessee defense, get them rocking and rolling. Heck, even some perimeter runs. Maybe it's outside zone. Maybe it's a little bit of that jet sweep with Berrien Brown coming across the formation. You give it to him, a little pop pass maybe, and let him work on the edges. The reason why that's so important is you get a defense rocking and rolling, it's a lot easier to get north and south because those linebackers start guessing with the motions. They start taking an extra second to read pass run. They don't trust their eyes quite as much. That would be a world that favors north and south for Ray Davis. Now, Berrien Brown, a guy that I mentioned before, going to talk about him again. He is lightning in a bottle. He has to be the pressure point for this Kentucky offense and for Devin Leary to be able to attack the perimeter of this Tennessee defense. He's so talented and so dynamic with the ball in his hands. You have to give him attention if you're Tennessee, because if you don't, he'll go 60 on you real quick. All right? Now, the keys for Tennessee to kind of combat that will be to be what I call calculated aggression. Because Tennessee, we know what they are. They want to apply pressure. They want to get downhill and attack you and hit you in the mouth. And you love that. That's your MO, baby. Like, we love being the bully if we're Tennessee. But we saw against Alabama, they did a great job sort of taking advantage of that aggression of Tennessee. Tennessee brought pressure from the edge. Jalen Milroe, little pull, put the ball in the perimeter to the tight end or whoever you want to talk about there with the perimeter pass game, and they got north and south. You want to bring pressure off the edge and try and get to our quarterback, give the ball underneath. You want to try and bring that safety down, we're going to throw it right over you. So for Tennessee, I apologize to make you relive that, but what I want to make sure we say is you can be aggressive, but you also have to have, I think, an extra thought to that big play possibility. And if you don't, you better get home. If you're able to get home and put the game on Devin Leary, then things change. And that's kind of what this conversation goes back to in my mind. You want to make it a thing where Devin Leary has to beat you. Because as talented as I think Devin Leary is overall, he has not played that way to this point in the year. And if you're not able to get home and Kentucky does get north and south, then it could kind of be a long day and you try to get that offense going into a little bit more of a chase mode, potentially playing from behind at Kroger Field in a raucous environment. Not a very suitable spot to be able to do that. Another matchup for this game. Can Tennessee have more than one wide receiver win consistently outside? And we talked about Squirrel White last week having to be the guy that kind of unlocks the rest of this Tennessee offense. And that first half of the game, I'm getting tweets saying, JD, you were right on the money with Squirrel White. He is the guy that unlocks the offense. We look good. We're rolling. And I appreciated all those, but I think within this game now, we got to have more than just Squirrel White to win outside. Because Bama saw that too after the first half. Did a great job collecting themselves, and they said, you know what? If you beat us, it's not going to be with Squirrel White. You saw Bama just try and get pressure with 4, put those linebackers way back, lived in third and long consistently, did Tennessee, so the run game's obviously got to be there as well. But they did a great job saying, you know what? Your wide receivers have to beat us. And there wasn't that Jalen Hyatt to take pressure off of a Squirrel White. There wasn't the Cedric Tillman or the Brew McCoy. There was nobody there to kind of be that counterpunch to them, or to Squirrel White, rather. And so I think Joe Milton's going to get a lot of criticism whenever this team does poorly, and he's going to get a lot of praise whenever they do well. But like, before we criticize Joe Milton, we got to ask, was somebody else open besides Squirrel White? Because Squirrel White, I think, will get a lot of attention in this game. Kentucky, to be real, has not been great against the pass. 254 yards allowed per game, but they've been great against the run. So again, that goes back to this conversation. If they're great against the run, as they've been to this point in the year, is Kentucky, do you have other playmakers outside separate themselves and be an option for Joe Milton? Because if you can get something going in the pass game with Squirrel White and somebody else, then that box loosens up, much like we talked about with Kentucky and what they want to do defensively. So, if they can't do that, then you go into a rock fight. We talked about it with Duke and Louisville. I think it's the same thing here with Tennessee and Kentucky. If you can't throw the football, it might be a game kind of like Texas A&M where you need a score from special teams, or you need the defense to make a play to kind of get you in, the red zone right away and be able to get points that way. I don't think you want to live that way. I think Tennessee wants to run the football first and throw the ball second, but you have to be able to have somebody else get open after you run the football effectively, if they can run the football effectively against this Kentucky front. So, when I look at this game, I think both these outfits in Kentucky and Tennessee, man, I think they're a little bit more similar than maybe we even realize. I think they're both tough up front. I think they both run the ball when they're at their best. We've seen that from Kentucky being like a 54% run team. We talked about Kentucky and what they do when they're right around 6 yards a carry with Ray Davis. Like, the rosters, in my mind, shape up to be right around equivalent. Maybe not the same, but I think they're equal in terms of how they match up. So in a game like this, when you have a lot of things that are a wash from a matchup perspective, it sounds cliche, but it comes down to the quarterbacks. And in a spot like this, with your back against the wall for both sides of this operation, Devin Leary at Kentucky and Tennessee's Joe Milton, you have to be the differentiator. Have to be the differentiator. And to me, a game like this just screams by any means necessary for your quarterback. By any means. Whether it's running the ball for a first down and laying your body out there, whether it's a scramble to check it down and keep a drive alive, whatever it looks like for this game, I think the quarterback will make that play. Now, we're not going out on a limb there so much to say that, but I think to the same token, you could see the quarterback lose the game in this one. I think turnovers could very, very easily be the difference maker for either side of this thing, as they typically are in a football game. So the quarterback, again, whatever it is, whatever play it is, I think they have to be the differentiator when it comes to this spot, with both teams wanting to play the same style to a degree. So I think that the Tennessee run game will actually find a way to get rolling in this one. We talked about A&M and the way that they were going to present some problems for Tennessee running the football, and then Josh Heupel did what Josh Heupel does. schemed up some winners, created space and put them in conflict and ran the football really effectively. I think you'll see that same kind of approach in this game. And I think with Kentucky, they're gonna have an effort to run the football. I think they'll still have some plays they make running the ball. But I think Devin Leary, what he's shown to this point in the year, makes me nervous to pick Kentucky in this spot, even at home. I don't trust him to be the guy, if it comes down to quarterback play, for him to win the football game. So, when it comes to our winner in this one, I think it's close. I think Tennessee ends up winning 27-23. So if you're keeping track at home, if it's 3.5 still, then we like Tennessee to cover. But bottom line, I think it's close. I think it is a gritty performance from both sides. It's going to take an edge from Tennessee to win this one, but I think they get it done. And what that would do for Tennessee now injects just a ton of adrenaline to what you have the rest of the way. You still got UConn, but you start to take a peek over at that game at Missouri, the game where Georgia comes to town. That November back-to-back is going to be very, very impactful, to say the least, for Tennessee and how they remember this season when it's all said and done. So we like Tennessee to win. Should be a really, really good game. Should be a physical game. And we say this at the end of every prediction, it feels like, but can't wait to watch it. Hey, y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also, be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.